funny how the Bronx never really sleeps. It just changes who's watching. Daytime, it's the old heads on milk crates arguing about the Yankees. At night, it's shadows and whispers. Young dudes flexing on corners, chasing ghosts in designer hoodies. That night, I was just another shadow walking home from work. Mop bucket still on my mind, janitor gloves in my pocket, the smell of bleach still in my nose. I wasn't nobody special. Just Luis Rivera, 43, the man who cleaned the hallways nobody wanted to walk through. You're watching Tales from the Block. Hit that like button and subscribe. New stories drop every day. People barely noticed me, and that's how I liked it. After years overseas, Marines, Fallujah, the kind of heat that melts your soul, the quiet felt good. The streets back home made more noise than gunfire ever did. It was just past midnight. Summer air thick as soup. The bodega on 163rd was still open, music humming low, old reggaeton mixing with the hum of the fridge doors. I bought a Gatorade, nodded to the owner, and stepped back out into the warm dark. Street lights flickered like they were nervous. A train rattled somewhere overhead. I always took the back alley home. Faster, quieter, less kids hanging around. I didn't even hear them at first. Just footsteps behind me, soft, then quicker. My instincts still worked. I felt that tension crawl up my neck before the sound caught up. Yo, old head, hold up a sec. 3 of them. Couldn't have been older than 20. Hoodies up, voices sharp. One had a red bandana tucked in his pocket. Another had a phone out, already recording. I kept walking. Ain't looking for no trouble, fellas. That's funny, the one in front said. Tall, skinny, eyes wild. 'Cause we think you already found some. He moved in closer. The other 2 flanked me. My chest tightened. That old Marine switch flipped on inside me. Calm heart, sharp focus. But I didn't want no fight. What's this about? I asked. You the one told the cops about the dice game last week? I frowned. I don't talk to cops. Yeah. He smiled, that kind of smile that don't reach the eyes. Funny, 'cause somebody been running his mouth and you look like the type. Quiet. Always watchin'. We seen you walking past that lot every night. Before I could answer, the first hit landed. A hard punch to the side of my face. Cracked my jaw like a whip. I stumbled back, hands up, trying to breathe. Then the second one caught my ribs, and the third pushed me against the wall. Yo, record this, one of them shouted. The phone light flashed, catching my face. Please, I managed, tasting blood. You got the wrong man. They laughed. The tall one grabbed my shirt, slammed me into the brick. Ain't no wrong man, old head. You shouldn't be snitching. He hit me again, knuckles splitting my lip. I heard my own grunt echo off the walls. For a moment, I saw something. My son, little Darius, back when he was 8, sitting on the stoop with his homework, telling me he wanted to join the Marines like me. Then that memory vanished under another blow. I dropped to my knees. My vision went black around the edges. The smell of garbage, urine, rain-soaked asphalt. All of it mixed into one blur. Then I felt the kick. Then another. One caught my ribs, one hit my shoulder. They were kids, reckless, scared, proving themselves for likes. Stop, one of them said, suddenly nervous. He done, bro. He done. Not yet, the tall one said. He crouched down, looked me in the eye. You tell them pigs anything else, old man. Next time you ain't getting up. Then they were gone. Sneakers fading into the hum of the city. The phone light disappeared. I lay there a long time, staring at a piece of broken glass reflecting the streetlight above me. My body felt foreign, pain pulsing everywhere, heartbeat slow and mean. I didn't scream, didn't even cry. I just lay there, listening to the Bronx breathe, sirens far off, a baby crying somewhere, a dog barking through the night. I'd seen worse overseas, but this was different. This was home turning on me. Eventually, I got up. My knees shook. I pressed a hand to my ribs and started walking. Each step hurt like truth. The lobby guard at my building saw me and froze. "Yo, Mr. Rivera, you good?" I waved him off. Couldn't talk. Blood filled my mouth. I made it to my apartment, locked the door, and collapsed on the floor. When I woke up, sunlight cut across the room. My face was swollen, lips crusted. One eye nearly shut. The clock said 9:17 a.m. My phone buzzed, missed calls from my boss. I called out sick, mumbled something about a fall. Didn't want no pity. I spent the day cleaning up the mess in the mirror. Ice, aspirin, quiet. But by nightfall, something inside me started to change. I turned on the news. Nothing about me, of course. Just another shooting, another kid gone. I flipped through my phone and then saw it. Someone had posted the video. My stomach turned. There I was, face bloodied, bent over in that alley. The caption read, "Old snitch gets what he deserves." Hundreds of laughing emojis. Comments. "That's what happens when you talk to 12. El Bozo thought he was safe. Bronx rules, no rats." I stared at it for a long time. Every comment like a spark on dry wood. My hands shook. Not from fear, but from something darker. I'd spent my whole life trying to control that darkness. The Marines taught me discipline. Life taught me restraint. But now all that calm started cracking. I walked into the bathroom, turned on the light, and looked at myself. My reflection barely looked human. One eye purple, nose crooked, lip busted. I smiled barely. "Wrong man," I whispered. The next day, I went back to work. The kids in the hall stared. Even the teachers avoided eye contact. The principal asked if I wanted to file a report. I said no. That night, after mopping the last hallway, I took the long way home, through the same alley. Same walls, same trash, same flickering light. My ribs still hurt, but I moved slow, controlled. I found a small piece of blood on the brick where my head hit. Dark, dry. My blood. That's when I decided. It wasn't about revenge. Not yet. It was about clarity. About understanding who these kids were, and why they thought I was their enemy. I spent the next few nights watching. From a distance. There's a little park off Prospect Avenue, basketball court, benches, graffiti walls. That's where they hung out. 3 of them. I recognized the tall one, the leader, from the video. Always loud, always the center. The other 2 followed him around like satellites. They thought they owned that block, but they were sloppy. Same clothes, same corners. I could tell by the way they moved, jittery, no discipline. I'd seen young soldiers like that before, full of fear, hiding behind ego. One night, I got close enough to hear their names. The tall one, Tire. The skinny one with the phone, Nino. The third one, quiet, anxious, Kev. Kev reminded me of Darius. Same hesitant eyes, like he wasn't built for this life but couldn't find a way out. I went home, sat on the couch, and opened an old trunk I hadn't touched in years. My Marine gear folded clean. Dog tags, faded photos, a knife I never used. The smell of oil and dust filled the air. I picked up the knife. The weight felt honest. Then I put it back. This wasn't a battlefield. Not yet. I started going to the community gym again, slow, steady. My body protested, but pain sharpened focus. Every punch on the heavy bag carried a memory. Every bead of sweat was a prayer I didn't know how to say. The janitor nobody noticed was waking up again. A week later, something strange happened. I was sweeping outside the school when I saw Kev across the street. He was sitting alone, hood down, smoking. Our eyes met. For a second, he froze. Then he looked away, shame flickering across his face. He crossed the street, like he wanted to say something, but his phone rang. He picked it up, muttered, "Yo, I'm coming," and walked off fast. That hesitation, it told me everything. He wasn't proud of what they did. He was trapped in it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on the fire escape, listening to the hum of the city. Somewhere below, 2 people argued about money. Car alarm wailed. Life went on like nothing happened. But for me, everything had shifted. I kept thinking about Darius, how he got caught in a crossfire when he was 16. Wrong place, wrong time. I'd been overseas when it happened. My ex never forgave me for not being there. I never forgave myself either. Now, years later, 3 kids jumped me thinking I was a snitch. Maybe in their eyes, every quiet man was a threat. Maybe they grew up never knowing someone could be silent and still strong. By the end of that week, I knew what I had to do. It was Friday night. The block was alive. Music, laughter, engines revving. I waited by the corner store where I first saw them. The air smelled like grease and rain. They came around midnight, laughing, pushing each other, same as before. Thierry saw me first. His smile vanished. "Well, look who back from the dead," he said, voice low. I stood straight, broom still in hand. "Told you, you got the wrong man." He snorted. "Man, I don't care who you are. You lucky I ain't finished the job." I looked him dead in the eyes. "Calm. Maybe you should've." His friends laughed, that nervous kind of laugh. "You talkin' reckless for an old dude," Thierry said, stepping closer. "What, you think you tough now?" I didn't move. "I think you scared." He blinked. "What? Scared?" I said again. "You only strong when 3 of you got a camera." His jaw clenched. For a second, I thought he'd swing. But something held him back. Maybe the steadiness in my eyes, maybe the quiet that don't bluff. "Man, you ain't worth it," he spat, turning away. "Let's go." They started walking, but Kev lingered, looking at me. Our eyes met again. This time, he didn't look away. You good, mister?" he asked quietly. I nodded once. "I'll be." He hesitated, then followed the others. When they disappeared around the corner, I exhaled slow. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from control. The next few days, I noticed Kev more. Alone at the basketball court, skipping school, hanging near the train tracks. Something in him was cracking. One night, I saw him arguing with Thierry. Voices rose. Thierry shoved him. Kev walked away fast, fists clenched. I followed at a distance. He went to the same alley where they jumped me, sat down on a crate, head in his hands. I stepped out of the shadows. "You don't belong with them." He looked up, startled.
Joe, man, I'm sorry.
I ain't mean. I know," I said. "You got a choice, kid. You think you don't, but you do." He shook his head. "You don't get it. Ain't no choice out here." "Maybe," I said softly, "but every soldier thinks that before he learns what he's really fighting for." He stared at me like he didn't understand, or maybe like he was starting to. Before he could answer, a shout came from the street. "Joe, Kev, you out here?" Thierry's voice. Kev's face went pale.
I gatego kropka.
He ran off. I stayed in that alley long after he left, the memory of my own son flickering in my chest like a dying flame. I didn't know it yet, but that night changed everything. Because the next morning, I'd wake up to the sound of sirens and find out one of those boys didn't make it home. The Bronx got this way of telling you when something bad happened, before the cops even show up. It's in the air. People get quiet. The corners go still. You feel it before you hear it. That morning, I woke up to sirens outside my window. Not unusual in my block. But this one didn't fade. It screamed, bounced off the brick buildings, echoed down the alley like it was searching for me. I pulled back the curtain. 2 NYPD cruisers were parked by the bodega. Yellow tape. A crowd gathering. I threw on a hoodie, stepped outside. A woman on the corner crossed herself. Somebody whispered, "They got Thierry." Another said, "Nah, that's Nino. He the one got hit." Everyone was guessing. The air felt electric, hot, dangerous. I pushed through until I could see the tape. That's when I saw him, Kev. He was standing across the street, eyes wide, shaking. I caught his gaze, and in that second, I knew the truth. It wasn't Tire. It wasn't Nino. It was Kev. I don't remember walking closer, but somehow I was near enough to see the sheet covering his small frame. Paramedics stood silent. A cop wrote something on a pad. Blood pooled near the curb, running toward the gutter like it couldn't wait to disappear. I froze. My throat locked. All the noise around me turned into static. My chest felt heavy, the kind of weight you can't lift, not even with both hands. He was just a kid. A scared, lost kid. Someone beside me muttered, "He got shot over some dumb beef." Tire said he switched sides. Another voice, "He was running his mouth. That's what happens." I turned away before they could see the tears. The same block that raised him was already erasing him. That's how fast the streets forget. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Kev's face in that alley. The same alley where he once asked me if I was good. The same kid I tried to warn. The guilt hit harder than any punch. Around 3 a.m., I got up, grabbed my jacket, and walked. The streets were empty, just the low hum of AC units and the flicker of red-blue lights reflecting off windows. I ended up at the alley again, where the blood was still dark on the concrete. I stood there, hands in my pockets, staring at the spot where his body had been found. The city around me breathed slow, heavy, tired. Then I heard footsteps behind me. "Didn't think I'd see you here, old man." I turned. Tire stepped out of the shadows, hoodie half-zipped, eyes red. Behind him was Nino, phone still in his hand, camera pointed at me like always. "You lookin' for something?" Tire asked. His tone was flat, dead. "You following me now?" I shook my head. "He was a kid, Tire." He sneered. "He was soft." "You killed him?" I asked low. "Don't talk like you know something," he said. "He got himself killed. Streets handle their own." Nino snickered. "Yeah, he tried to play both sides. You know how that go." I took a step forward. "You call that honor?" Tire's jaw tightened. "Honor? Ain't no honor here, old head. You should know that by now. You lucky we ain't finished what we started." He raised his chin, proud of his own poison. The streetlight flickered between us. For a moment, I saw the boy behind his mask. Scared, shaking under all that bravado. I exhaled. "You got no idea what's coming for you." He laughed, but there was a crack in it. "What, you gonna tell the cops?" "Go ahead. I don't run." I didn't say another word. I just turned and walked away. But inside me, something old, something I thought I buried, started to wake up. For the next few days, the block was tense. Kev's death spread like smoke. Some said he got caught between crews. Others said it was personal. Nobody talked to the cops. That's the rule. Silence or disappear. At work, people could tell I was off. The principal asked if I needed time off. I told her no. The truth was, I didn't know what to do with time anymore. Every minute felt heavy. That night, I went to the memorial. Candles lined the sidewalk, pictures taped to the wall. Kev's mother sat there, eyes dry from too much crying. I didn't know her, but I stood beside her, silent. When she finally looked up, she said, "You knew my boy?" I nodded. "A little. He was kind." She stared into the candles. "He was lost. His daddy been gone since he was 6. I tried to keep him straight, but this block," her voice cracked, "this block eats our kids." I wanted to tell her I understood, that I knew what it felt like to bury a son, but the words wouldn't come. She touched my arm gently. "Thank you for coming." I left before I broke down. That night, I sat in my apartment and opened that old trunk again. My dog tags clinked in the silence. The knife lay there, gleaming dull in the low light. The Marine in me whispered one thing, justice, but the father in me whispered something else, mercy. I poured myself a drink. The glass shook in my hand. I'd spent years telling myself I left that part of me behind, the part that could hurt people without blinking. But watching Kev die, knowing Tire was still walking free, laughing, alive. It made my hands itch. The Bronx outside my window hummed with heat and regret. I didn't plan anything that night. I just stopped pretending I could stay out of it. The next day, I went back to the park where Tire and Nino hung out. They were there, like always, playing dice, smoking, talking big. I sat on a bench nearby, newspaper in hand, just watching. Nino's laughter echoed. Tire kept glancing around, paranoid, twitchy. I could tell the guilt was starting to eat him. That's how it starts. The mind turns louder than the block. Then something unexpected happened. A car pulled up, black Charger, tinted windows. Two men got out, dressed cleaner than anyone on that street. They walked straight to Tire. I couldn't hear much, but I saw Tire's body language, defensive, then submissive. The men got in his face. One of them shoved him. Then they left, tires screeching. Nino looked nervous. "Yo, who was that?" Tire spat on the ground. "Don't worry about it." But I knew that look. I'd seen it before. The look of a man realizing he'd just stepped on a bigger landmine than he could handle. Something about Kev's death wasn't random. It was connected to something bigger. That night, I followed Tire again. He cut through side streets, hood up, ended up near an abandoned building off 169th, a spot I hadn't seen anyone use in years. He slipped inside. I waited a few minutes, then followed. The place smelled like rust and mold. The floor creaked under my boots. I could hear voices deeper inside. Tire arguing with someone. "I told you I ain't mean to kill him," he shouted. "He pulled the gun first." Another voice answered, low, controlled. "Doesn't matter. You brought heat to my corner. I can fix it." "You can't fix dead, boy." Silence. Then the sound of a slap. Something heavy hit the floor. I peeked around the corner. A man in his 30s stood over Tire, muscular, bald, tattoos crawling up his neck. He had the calmness of real danger, the kind that don't yell. "You cost me product, respect, and now the cops sniffing around," he said. "You ain't built for this." He pulled a pistol, aimed it down. That's when I moved. Old instincts took over. I picked up a broken pipe, stepped out of the dark, and swung hard. The pipe connected with the man's wrist. The gun clattered. He turned, stunned, eyes meeting mine. "Who the hell?" I hit him again in the ribs this time. He stumbled, swung back. His punch caught my shoulder, pain exploding through me, but I kept going. Training took over. Block, strike, breathe. He reached for the gun again, but I kicked it away. Then he grabbed me by the throat, slammed me into the wall. His breath smelled like whiskey and blood. "You don't know what you just did," he growled. I rasped, "You're right." Then I headbutted him. Hard. He dropped. I didn't wait. I grabbed the gun, aimed it, but he was already crawling out the door, limping into the night. When I looked up, Tire was staring at me like I was a ghost. "Why you help me?" he asked, voice shaking. I was breathing heavy. "Because I already failed one kid." He blinked, confused. "You talking about Kev?" I nodded. He looked down, eyes wet. "I ain't mean for him to die, man." He pointed a gun at me. I thought he was gonna shoot. "You always got excuses," I said. "But out here, excuses just sound like echoes." He wiped his face, trembling. "Who was that dude?" I looked toward the door. "Someone who owns you now." We left the building fast. I walked him to the next block before I spoke again. "Tire, listen to me. Whoever that man is, you stay away from him. You keep running, you die tired. You stay, you die fast." He shook his head. "You don't get it. He my plug. I can't just walk away." I stopped. "You already halfway gone, son." He swallowed hard. For a second, I thought he might cry. But then that hardness slid back over him. The armor every Bronx kid learns to wear. He backed away. "Stay out of my business, old man." Then he disappeared down the block. I stood there, the gun heavy in my hand, the smell of rust and dust in my nose. Somewhere, a train rattled by, screaming through the night. And for the first time since I came back from war, I realized I wasn't just fighting memories anymore. The war had followed me home. I didn't sleep that night. I sat by the window, staring at the city lights. Every sound felt sharper: sirens, footsteps, laughter. I kept replaying that fight in my head. Every move, every word. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. In the distance, thunder rolled. A storm was coming. You could smell it, that wet metal scent before the sky opens up. Around 2 a.m., someone knocked on my door. 3 times. Firm, deliberate. I froze. Then a voice. "It's me, Tire." I opened the door. He was soaked, hoodie dripping, eyes wild. "They know it was you," he said. "That dude, his name's Gatto. He runs the block from Jennings to 170th. He saw your face." I tensed. "How?" "Words out. He looking for you. Said you messed with his business." I stared at him. "Why'd you come here?" "'Cause I owe you," he said, breathing hard. "You saved me. Now I'm trying to save you." For a moment, we just stood there. 2 men from different worlds, both trapped in the same mess. "You still got that gun?" he asked. I nodded. "Good," he said. "You gonna need it." He turned to leave. "Wait," I said. "You could come with me. Get out. Start over." He laughed bitterly. "Ain't no startin' over here." Then he ran off into the rain. I stood in the doorway, water pooling at my feet, heart pounding. The storm outside cracked open, lightning slicing the sky. Somewhere deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Gatto wasn't the kind of man to let things slide. And as thunder rolled over the Bronx, I realized something else. The wrong man they jumped wasn't gonna stay quiet anymore. The rain didn't stop for 2 days. Bronx rain's different. It don't wash nothing clean. It just pushes the dirt around, spreads the blood thinner, makes it look like the city's crying for the wrong people. By the time the clouds broke, everyone already knew. Luis Rivera had a price on his head. I heard it from the corner boys first. Gatto looking for some old dude. Said he messed with business. Word travels faster than bullets around here. By evening, I was a ghost walking my own block. Could have left, packed a bag, vanished like I did after the Marines. But something inside me wouldn't move. Maybe it was Kev. Maybe it was that alley. Or maybe I was just too damn tired of running from ghosts. So instead of leaving, I cleaned the gun. There's a rhythm to maintenance: field strip, inspect, oil, reassemble. It's meditation in metal form. Every click takes you back to discipline, to order, to a time when right and wrong were printed on mission briefings. Now, ain't no briefings here, just choices that keep you awake at night. I sat by the window, gun on the table, the city's pulse outside like a drumbeat. Then came a knock. This time it wasn't Tire. When I opened the door, a woman stood there. Late 30s, tough eyes, police badge clipped to her belt. "Luis Rivera?" she asked. "Who's asking?" "Detective Marisol Vega. Can I come in?" I hesitated. She flashed the badge again, this time slower. I let her in. She looked around my apartment. The photos, the worn books, the quiet. "I heard you were at the scene," she said. "The shooting on 169th. Kid named Kevin Ortiz." I said nothing. She studied me. "You were military?" I nodded. "Figures. You got that stare." She sat down uninvited. "Here's the deal. Word on the street is you tangled with a guy named Gatto. You made enemies real quick." "Not my first time," I said. "Yeah, well, these ones don't fight fair. You should leave town." I shook my head. "Kid's dead because of them." She sighed. "I get it, but I can't protect you if you play hero." "I don't need protection." She looked at me a long time. "You're not the first vet to say that." Before she left, she said something that stuck with me. "You think you're fighting for that boy, but I've seen your file, Rivera. You're fighting for someone else, aren't you?" I didn't answer. She nodded like she already knew. After she left, I went to the shelf and pulled out an old photo. Me and my son, Marcus, in front of the same bodega that's now taped off for murders. He was 12 then, laughing. Before the war. Before he ran away. Before the call came that he'd been shot in Baltimore 3 years later. Kev had that same laugh. Same way of hiding pain behind a grin. That's when I decided I wasn't running. Not again. I started watching Gatto's people. Bronx teaches you to blend in, walk slow, don't stare, act like you belong. I spent days moving between corners, bodegas, laundromats, listening. Gatto ran his crew out of a garage on Jerome Avenue, behind a fake car wash. Drug runs, gun drops, everything filtered through there. Tire was back in their orbit like he never almost died. I saw him twice, always tense, looking over his shoulder. Kid was trapped, playing soldier for the wrong war. One night, I caught him alone, leaving the garage. Followed him 2 blocks until he ducked into an alley to smoke. You never learned, I said, stepping out of the dark. He jumped, dropped the cigarette. Yo, you trying to get me killed? Already did that to yourself. He looked around nervously. What you doing here? Trying to finish what you started. He scoffed. You think this a movie, old man? You ain't taking Gatto down. I don't need to take him down, I said. Just cut his legs out. Tire stared at me for a long time. Then his voice dropped. You don't understand. He got cops, lookouts, everybody in his pocket. You move wrong, you disappear. Then we move right. He laughed bitterly. There ain't no right moves here. I stepped closer. Then make a new one. Help me. He blinked. Why would I help you? Because you owe that kid. And you owe yourself. For a moment, the streetlight flickered over his face. Torn, scared, guilty. Then he nodded once. You crazy, you know that? Little bit, I said. That's what keeps me alive. Over the next week, Tire fed me info. Small stuff, drop times, stash spots, Gatto's right-hand men. He didn't trust me fully, but he wanted out. I could see it every time his voice cracked when he mentioned Kev's name. I planned slow, careful. The Marines teach you one thing above all: control the terrain. So I learned every exit of that garage, every route, every window. I even found where Gatto's cars parked. 3 black Chargers, one of them bulletproof. But the closer I got, the more I realized something. Someone was following me. I started noticing shadows that didn't match. Same car twice in one day. A figure in the building across the street watching too long. It wasn't paranoia, it was rhythm. I'd learned to read danger by heartbeat. Then one night, my apartment door was cracked open. I went in slow, gun drawn. The place was quiet, too quiet. My chair had been moved slightly. The photo of Marcus was on the table, and next to it, a bullet. Message received. Next day, I found Vega again. She was sitting in her car outside the precinct, sipping burnt coffee. Someone broke into my place, I said. She didn't look surprised. Then you're officially in it. I need to find Gatto before he finds me. She frowned. You think I can just give you that? No, but you can look away. She studied me. You know, you're walking the same road that killed your son. I froze. You don't know nothing about that. I know he was 15. I know you blamed yourself. And I know this, she gestured around. This is how you atone, but it won't bring him back. I turned to leave. Didn't say it would. That night, the block exploded. I heard at first gunfire near the car wash, then sirens, shouting, people running. I grabbed my jacket and ran toward it. The scene was chaos. Cars burning, glass everywhere, men screaming. Gatto's crew had been hit. By who? Nobody knew yet. I ducked behind a dumpster, scanning. That's when I saw him. Gatto himself, furious, waving his gun, barking orders. Tire, he shouted. You said the deal was clean. Tire was on his knees, hands up. I swear, I ain't know. It wasn't me. You bring heat to my block twice? Gato roared. Nah, you done. He raised the gun. Without thinking, I moved. I fired once, clean center mass. Gato's gun flew out of his hand. He staggered, screaming. His men scattered, firing blind. I grabbed Tire, dragged him behind a car as bullets tore through metal. You really don't miss, do you? Tire gasped. Muscle memory, I said. We crawled through the chaos, smoke thick as fog. Sirens were closing in. I could hear Vega's voice somewhere shouting orders. Then an explosion, one of the chargers blew, throwing us both against the wall. When I came to, my ears rang. Tire was bleeding from his arm. Fire painted the night red. Gato was gone. We hid out in an abandoned laundromat. Tire's breathing was shaky. I tore a strip from my shirt and tied his arm. You saved me again, he said weakly. Don't make a habit of it. He smiled faintly. You think this over? I looked out the cracked window. No, this is the middle. He exhaled. That detective Vega, she different. She asked me questions. Said she trying to flip me. Maybe you should let her. He shook his head. Snitches don't live long out here. Neither do ghosts. He laughed softly. You sound like my pops. I probably am in another life. We sat there, silent, until dawn started bleeding through the windows. The fire trucks had come and gone. The block was quiet again, like nothing happened. I thought maybe, just maybe, the worst was over. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One text. You should have stayed retired. Attached was a photo. It was Vega tied to a chair. Everything inside me went cold. I showed Tire. He cursed under his breath. That's Gato. He got her. Where? He hesitated. There's a spot under the train bridge. Old freight yard. That's where they do their dirt. I grabbed my gun. Then that's where I'm going. He grabbed my arm. You can't go alone. I've been alone my whole life. He looked at me, not as an enemy, but as someone he finally understood. Then he nodded. Then we both go. The freight yard was a graveyard of metal. Rusted containers, dead trains, shadows that moved like they were alive. We got there just before sundown. The air was thick with smoke from the earlier fire. We crept through the yard, sticking to cover. I could hear voices ahead, laughter, muffled screams. Vega. She was tied to a chair in an old train car. Gato stood in front of her, bandaged but smiling, gun in hand. You cops think you run this city, he said, but the streets don't care about badges. Vega spat blood. And you think the streets care about you? He laughed. They will, after tonight. I signaled to Tire. 2 guards at the door, both distracted. We moved quiet, years of muscle memory kicking in. 1 step, breathe, strike. I took the left, he took the right. 2 bodies dropped. Then I kicked the door open. Let her go. Gato turned, eyes lighting up. Well, look who couldn't stay dead. He raised his gun. I fired first, missed by an inch. The bullet tore through his shoulder. He stumbled back, laughing through the pain. You think you the hero? He said. You just another killer who forgot his uniform. He fired back 3 shots. 1 grazed my leg. I fell behind a crate, pain burning hot. Tire returned fire, yelling. Gato ducked, pulled Vega in front of him as shield. Drop it, he shouted, or she dies. I froze, my breath loud in my ears. Then Vega, voice steady, said, Take the shot, Rivera. My hands didn't shake. 1 squeeze, 1 echo. The bullet caught Gato between the eyes. He dropped like a puppet with its strings cut. Vega slumped, gasping. Tire rushed to cut her free. I stood there, gun still raised, hands trembling now that it was over. Or maybe it wasn't, because when Vega looked up at me, her face was pale. Behind you, she whispered. I turned too slow. One of Gatto's men had crawled from behind the crates, gun drawn. I fired, but he fired too. The world went white. When I woke, everything was noise, sirens, shouting, the rush of air. I was in the back of an ambulance. Vega's face hovered above mine. "Stay with me, Rivera," she said. "You hear me?" Tire was beside her, hand on my shoulder. "You ain't dying on me, old man. Not after all this." I tried to speak, but blood filled my throat. "He gone." "Yeah," Vega said. "It's over." I wanted to believe her. I really did. As the ambulance sped through the night, I looked out the back window. The block rolled past. The same streets, same lights, same ghosts. And somewhere, under the hum of sirens, I could swear I heard Kev's voice, soft, almost like a whisper. "You did good, old man." I smiled, just a little, before the darkness took me. They said I should have been dead twice. The doctors looked at me like I was a ghost that refused to leave the body. A bullet had torn through my side. Another grazed my shoulder. But somehow, the heart kept beating. Bronx Lebanon Hospital, gray walls, fluorescent lights that buzz louder than thoughts. The smell of antiseptic mixed with fried food from the cafeteria downstairs. I spent 3 weeks there, counting ceiling tiles, waiting for sleep that never came. Vega visited first. "You look like hell," she said, standing in the doorway, arm in a sling but smiling anyway. "You should see the other guy," I muttered. I did. "He's in a drawer at the morgue." She stepped closer, lowered her voice. "Internal Affairs wants statements, but I told them you're still out. I didn't ask you to cover for me. You didn't have to." She sat by the bed. "You saved my life. Twice." Silence stretched between us. Machines beeped slow, steady. "You ever think maybe we're cursed?" I said finally. "We keep surviving the wrong things." She looked down. "I think we're just too stubborn to die." A few days later, Tire came. Hoodie up, nervous energy crackling off him like static. "You can't be here," I said. I had to, man. Just to say, "Thank you." I eyed him. "You still runnin' with anyone?" "Nah, I'm done. I'm out." "Out ain't a place, kid. It's a mindset." He nodded, eyes heavy.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Vega said she might help me get into some program, ex-offenders, job training, that kind of thing. "That's good," I said, though I didn't believe in programs. The system don't fix people. It just teaches them how to wait quietly. He hesitated. "Listen, there's something else. People talking. They say Gatto wasn't the top. Somebody bigger's moving in. Calls himself El Lobo." I frowned. "Wolf?" "Yeah. Word is Gatto worked for him. Lobo runs everything from Jersey to the Bronx. Guns, pills, cars. You took out his man, he gonna take it personal. So now I got another ghost comin' for me." Tire swallowed hard. "I just thought you should know." He left before I could say more. That night, sleep finally came. Heavy, uneasy, filled with flashes of fire and sand. When I woke, my hand was still clenched around an imaginary rifle. By the time they discharged me, the city felt colder. Fall creeping in, air sharper, streets quieter but meaner. I went back to my apartment. Walls still cracked, same flickering light bulb, same photo of Marcus on the shelf. Felt smaller now, or maybe I did. I tried to settle back into the routine morning coffee, cleaning up, short walks to the corner store. But the block had changed. People looked at me different. Some with respect, some with fear. Word travels faster than truth out here. Old man shot up half the neighborhood. I heard one kid whisper, "Don't mess with him. He crazy." Maybe they were right. One night, I sat on the stoop, watching headlights crawl up the street. The city buzzed low, like a giant engine refusing to die. Vega pulled up, killed the lights, and joined me. "Got room for one more old soul?" she asked. "Barely," I said. She handed me a coffee. You ever think of leaving? All the time. Then why don't you? I look down the street. Because I still see him out there. My boy. Every time some kid walks by in a hoodie, I think it's him. She didn't say anything, just nodded. After a while, she said quietly, El Lobo's real. Da's been tracking him for months. If he thinks you killed Gato, he'll come for you. I figured you could let us handle it. I smirked. You mean the same us that let the streets eat themselves? She sighed. You don't trust the system. I did once. Then I buried my son. A week later, the message came. I was walking home from the corner when a car slowed beside me. Black Escalade, tinted windows. A paper slipped out the passenger side, fluttered to the curb. I picked it up. Just one line written in marker. You took my dog. Now the wolf comes.
No signature.
Didn't need one. I went straight upstairs, grabbed the pistol, checked the magazine. My hands didn't shake this time. That night, I waited by the window. Bronx nights have a sound. Distant sirens, laughter that ain't happy, dogs barking like they know something's coming. I watched every shadow, every movement. At 2:14 a.m., I saw it. A reflection in the window across the street. Someone watching me. I turned off my lights, crept down the stairwell. The cold metal railing under my hand felt like an old friend. Outside, the air bit at my skin. I moved slow, silent, until I was behind the building facing mine. I saw him through the glass, tall, broad shoulders, face hidden under a hoodie. Scoped rifle pointed right at my window. I didn't think. I just acted. I slipped inside through the fire escape, climbed the last few steps, kicked open the door. He turned, surprised, too slow. I grabbed the rifle, slammed it aside, threw him against the wall. He fought back hard, young, strong. We crashed into furniture, breaking glass, grunting in the dark. Who sent you? I hissed. He spat blood. Lobo sends his regards. I slammed him again. Where is he? Everywhere. He swung a knife, caught my arm, shallow but burning. I reacted by instinct, twisting his wrist until bone cracked. The knife clattered. He reached for his gun. I shot once. Chest. He fell back, gasping. I stared at him as his life drained away, the city lights flickering on his face. He couldn't have been older than 20. Same age as Marcus when they killed him. I stepped back, stomach churning. The gun felt heavier than it should. Vega showed up 20 minutes later, flashing lights painting the buildings red and blue. You just can't stay out of trouble, can you? She said, crouching over the body. He came to kill me. I believe you. But this one, she gestured to the kid. He's clean, no record, probably just trying to impress the wrong people. That's how they all start. She looked at me, tired. This can't go on, Rivera. It'll never end. Maybe it shouldn't, I said quietly. Maybe that's the point. Days passed. I barely slept. Every noise sounded like footsteps. Every dream was a battlefield. Then Tire called. Yo, I found something. Lobos move in, a big shipment tonight, guns and pills. Pier 17 by the docks. You stop that, you stop him. You sure? As sure as I ever been. You told Vega? Nah, she'd shut it down her way. I figured you'd want first shot. He wasn't wrong. I grabbed my jacket and left. The docks were dead quiet except for the wind off the water. The moon hung low, casting silver over the shipping containers. Shadows moved near the end, men loading crates into a van. I counted 6, maybe 7, armed. Voices carried over the waves. Then I saw him.
El Lobo.
Tall, clean-cut, wearing a white coat over dark clothes. Didn't look like a street boss, more like a businessman with blood on his ledger. He laughed with one of his men, lighting a cigar. Calm, untouchable. I moved closer, sticking to cover. The smell of salt and oil filled my lungs. My heart thudded slow, steady. Then a voice behind me whispered, You really came. Tire. I turned. You followed me? He nodded. Couldn't let you do it alone. Before I could answer, lights flooded the pier. High beams from trucks pulling in, engines roaring. DEA, drop your weapons. Vega's voice echoed through a bullhorn. Chaos erupted. Shots fired. Men scattered. I dove behind a container as bullets sparked against metal. Lobo's men returned fire. Vega's agents moved in tactical formation, precise, professional. Lobo didn't flinch. He grabbed a crate, ducked behind it, and shouted, "Burn it!" One of his men lit a Molotov and hurled it toward the vans. Fire bloomed, reflecting off the water. Tire shouted, "He's getting away!" and took off. "Wait!" I yelled, but he didn't. He chased Lobo down the dock, dodging flames and bullets. I followed, lungs burning, leg throbbing from the old wound. Lobo turned, fired twice, missed Tire by inches. The kid jumped him, both crashing into the rail. They struggled, raw, desperate. Lobo was stronger, older. He grabbed Tire by the throat, pushing him toward the edge. I fired once, hit Lobo in the shoulder. He screamed, turned his gun on me. Then Vega appeared, shouting, "Drop it!" For a second, everything froze. Firelight, smoke, water below. Lobo looked at me, eyes wild. "You don't even know what you started, old man." "Maybe not," I said, "but I know how to finish it." He lunged for the gun. I fired. He fell backward into the black water, disappearing without a splash. Tire dropped to his knees, shaking. Vega rushed over, cuffing the few survivors. Sirens echoed from far off, backup arriving. "It's done," she said, panting. "Yeah," I muttered. "For now." She looked at me. "You saved lives tonight. You could have walked away." "I've been trying to walk away my whole life. Never got far." Tire stared at the water. "You think he's dead?" "Doesn't matter," I said. "The wolf always comes back. It's in his nature." Vega put a hand on my shoulder. "Then maybe it's time to stop being the hunter." By dawn, the fire was out. The docks were cordoned off, bodies covered, smoke rising into the pale morning sky. I sat on the curb, exhausted, blood dried on my sleeve. Vega came over with 2 coffees. "You ever gonna rest?" "When the city does," I said. She smirked. "So never." We sat in silence, watching the sun push through the haze. "You could join the department," she said softly. "Consultant, maybe. Use that marine brain for something good." "I already did," I said. "Just didn't look like it." She nodded. "Fair enough." Then Tire walked over. Fresh bandage on his arm, face streaked with soot but alive. He looked lighter somehow. "I'm done," he said. "For real this time." I told Vega I'd help her with outreach. Talk to the kids. Try to keep em from Fallon like we did. I smiled faintly. "That's a good start." He hesitated. "You gonna stick around?" "Maybe. The block still needs janitors." He laughed. "Nah, man. They need warriors." I looked at him, then at the sunrise painting the river gold. "Nah, kid. They need peace." Later that morning, I went back home. Cleaned up, made coffee, opened the window. The city was alive again. Sirens, buses, shouting neighbors. The Bronx never sleeps, it just switches masks. On the table, the photo of Marcus caught the sunlight. I picked it up, traced the edges. "I did what I could, son," I whispered. "Hope that's enough." Outside, kids laughed in the street. A sound I hadn't heard in months. It didn't fix anything, but it filled the cracks for a moment. The kind of moment you live for when you've lost everything else. Then I closed the window, poured another cup, and sat back down. Just an old man in a city that keeps spinning, still breathing, still waiting. Because sometimes surviving is the only revenge left. You're watching Tales from the Block. Hit that like button and subscribe. Every story got a heartbeat, and this one's mine. The Bronx smelled different after the rain. Not clean, just quiet, like the city was holding its breath. The puddles reflected the orange streetlights, and for once, nobody was yelling. No engines revving, no bottles breaking. Just the drip from a fire escape and that far-off hum of the 6 train cutting through the night. I was limping down 138th Street with a duffel bag over my shoulder, the same one I carried in Iraq. Only this time it wasn't packed with ammo or gear. Just a change of clothes, a photograph of my son, and a folded letter I'd written but hadn't yet decided to send. The cops had come by the school again earlier that day. Not for me, for the kid, Jamal. The same one who'd once laughed while stomping my ribs, now limping through his own version of hell. I'd seen him in that alley last week, barely breathing, after the same street that raised him tried to eat him alive. I pulled him out, carried him to the hospital, and watched him shake under the fluorescent lights like a child lost in a storm. And now word was spreading. The janitor saved one of the 14th boys, people whispered. Guess he ain't so soft after all. But that wasn't why I did it. See, revenge had a taste, metallic like blood in your mouth after a fight. I thought I wanted it. Thought if I found the kids who jumped me and made them pay, I'd get some kind of peace. But peace ain't something you take. It's something you give up, something you bleed for. I remember sitting outside the hospital that night, my back against the cold brick wall, watching nurses smoke behind the dumpsters. The kid was inside, hooked up to machines that hissed like old ghosts. When he finally woke up, the first thing he said wasn't, "Where am I?" or "What happened?" He said, "Why'd you help me?" His voice cracked like it didn't know how to ask for mercy, and I didn't know how to answer. "I been where you are," I told him. He frowned. "You? Old head like you?" I smiled a little. "Yeah, maybe worse." He didn't believe me at first, but I could see it in his eyes. A part of him wanted to. Maybe he saw his own ghost in me. Maybe he recognized that look people get when they're tired of running from the same nightmare. For the next week, I visited him every evening after work. I'd mop the hallways, stack the chairs, and walk the 10 blocks to Lincoln Hospital. The nurses started nodding when they saw me. Some thought I was his uncle. I didn't correct them. He told me about his mom, working double shifts at a laundromat. About his older brother, Marcus, the real reason he joined the crew. He kept me safe, till he got shot. After that, I had to be him. I had to be hard. I listened, didn't judge, just let him talk. And slowly, I started seeing what I'd been blind to all along. These kids, they weren't born violent. They were shaped that way, like the streets molded them out of fear and hunger, turned them into armor long before they even knew how to fight. But what broke me most was when he said, "We thought you was the snitch. We didn't even know your name." That hit me harder than any punch. To them, I wasn't a person, just a face in the wrong place. The wrong man they jumped. One night, after leaving the hospital, I ran into Drella, Marcus's old lieutenant. Big dude, tattoos creeping up his neck, gold tooth glinting under the streetlight. He leaned against a black Dodge Charger, arms crossed, eyes like cold steel. "Heard you been visiting the boy," he said. "Yeah. He was one of ours." I figured. "You also know we don't forget weakness." I looked him dead in the eyes. "Then remember this. I ain't weak." For a moment I thought he'd swing, but instead he smirked. "You got heart, old man. That's gonna get you killed." Maybe he was right, but I wasn't afraid anymore. The fear that used to choke me, it was gone. I'd already died once in that alley. Everything after was just borrowed time. 2 days later, the cops raided Drella's crew. Someone tipped them off about a stash house. Half the block lit up red and blue. Word spread fast that the same kid I'd saved, Jamal, had been questioned. They said he talked. I didn't believe it at first, but when I went back to the hospital, his bed was empty, sheets cold. Nurse said he checked out that morning, never signed discharge papers. That's when I knew something was wrong. I walked the streets till midnight, hitting every corner, every bodega, asking questions nobody wanted to answer. Finally, I found a clue. A text from an unknown number on my old prepaid phone. Just one line. Check the playground on 143rd. Midnight. I should have called someone. I should have stayed home. But some roads, once you start walking, there's no turning back. The playground was quiet when I got there. Swings creaked in the wind, graffiti shining under the streetlights. I saw 3 shadows near the slide, Drella and 2 others. And between them, on his knees, was Jamal. His face was swollen, blood dripping from his lip. His hands were tied behind him with a belt. Drella grinned when he saw me. Told you that heart would get you killed. I stepped closer. He didn't talk. Then why'd the cops find our spot, huh? You think a kid in a hospital bed did that? He's soft now. You made him soft. He pulled a gun from his waistband, chrome glinting like a star in the dark. You really think saving one punk changes anything, old man? I didn't answer. My eyes were on Jamal, terrified, shaking. Last chance, Drella said. Walk away. But I'd walked away too many times in my life. From my son, from my marriage, from the war, from every ghost that called my name. Not this time. I took a step forward. You pull that trigger, you'll just be proving me right. He frowned. About what? That you're still that scared little boy who thought a gun made him a man. The look in his eyes changed. Rage, pride, confusion all mixing together. The kind of look men get right before they do something they can't take back. The gun lifted, and then the world exploded. I don't remember diving forward. Don't remember grabbing his wrist or the flash that followed. Just the sound, deafening, sharp, final. Then silence. When I opened my eyes, Drella was on the ground, the gun beside him, my hands shaking. Jamal staring at me like he'd seen a ghost. I'd been here before, different desert, same blood. But this time, I didn't feel triumph. I felt empty. Sirens started echoing in the distance. Jamal's voice trembled. We gotta go. I looked at Drella's body. No, you do. You go home. He shook his head. They'll say you did it. I did. Tears welled in his eyes. Why you doing this for me? I smiled, weak. Because somebody should have done it for my son. When the cops arrived, I didn't run. I raised my hands and let them take me. The rain started falling again, washing the blood off my knuckles, the streetlights blurring in the water. The city felt alive, breathing, watching. At the precinct, they questioned me for hours. I told them the truth, almost all of it. How the gun went off in the struggle, how I tried to protect the kid. Eventually, the DA dropped it down to self-defense. I did a few months in holding, then probation. Not because they cared, but because nobody cared enough to dig deeper. By the time I got out, the world had moved on. But something had changed in the block. Kids nodded when I passed. Old ladies smiled. Even the corner boys gave me a quiet kind of respect. The kind you give a man who's seen too much to bluff. A few weeks later, I got a letter. No return address, just my name scrawled messy on the front. Inside, a short note. I'm leaving the city, going to Jersey to live with my aunt. I ain't gonna waste what you gave me. G. I sat on my porch, reading it over and over. For the first time in years, I felt something like peace. The kind that don't come from vengeance or justice, but from knowing you broke the cycle even just once. I lit a cigarette, watched the smoke curl into the humid night, and thought about all the ghosts that finally stopped screaming. Sometimes, when I walk home late and the streetlights hum, I still pass that playground. The paint's peeling, the swings rusted, but it's quiet now.
No gunshots, no sirens.
Just kids laughing in the distance. And I think maybe that's all redemption really is, not some grand gesture, not some clean slate. Just one small act of mercy in a world that forgot how to show it. The Bronx don't change easy, but sometimes the smallest thing, one man doing the right thing at the wrong time, can tilt the whole street a little closer to light. And if that ain't worth fighting for, I don't know what is. You're watching Tales from the Block. Don't forget, even the hardest streets can still teach you something real. Hit subscribe. There's more where this came from.